So I read My Hero Academia's ending because one, I write manga and it's always good to stay on top of what's going on in the manga world and also to see what inspirations can be taken. And with that ending, let me tell you, the fans are divided and they are not happy. And it actually has to do with a writing standpoint that no one's really talking about that we're going to dive in here today. So the what you can expect from this video is we're going to talk about why people don't like it or why they do like it, and also how I would have changed things from a writer standpoint to give a better ending in my opinion. So the first thing that we need to talk about is the concept of the promise. And for those of you who don't know, the promise is a very simple writing device. It basically tells readers from the get-go what they should expect this story to be about. What is the promise that this story is going to give to them? And some stories are very subtle about this, and other stories are not so much. And My Hero Academia is the latter, as it tells you right in the very end of chapter 1 that this is the story about how I became the greatest hero. And so this is the story of what we're promised. The story about how Deku goes from a nobody to become the greatest hero. And this is actually the very first point of contention at why people are kind of divided about this ending. And it all has to do with the very last page. And in that last page, we see that everyone is standing together. And it becomes very apparent by the end of that last chapter that this is not the story. This is not the ending of somebody who became the world's greatest hero. This is the story about how a generation, a class, became the new symbol of hope. Deku is not like All Might. He did not get a statue like All Might. Because back in All Might's day, he was the literal singular figure that held up the hope, the light, the ideal of what a hero is. And now, because of Deku's work throughout the story, he does not have to carry that burden alone. And that is okay. But the thing is, it betrays in some fashion about what the hero is, what the promise was. We didn't sign up for a story about how Class 1A became the greatest heroes. We signed up for a story about how Deku became the greatest hero. And so, from that standpoint, I can understand why people are upset because it is not the story that they were promised. But here's another little food for thought about how to interpret this ending. Deku did something no one else had done. He was able to bring people together in such a way that they were able to all rise to the occasion and be that grand hero. This had not been done before. So, in some way, absolutely, this is a story about how he became the greatest hero. And another aspect of the promise is the occupation. And teaching is a very noble profession, especially in Japan. But the way that this actually betrays his profession and that idea of the promise is the fact that after he loses his power, he gets into a conversation with his teacher, and his teacher asks, "Do you miss it?" And Deku responds, dot dot dot. The thing is, when you and Fuwa senpai were chatting all those years ago, a thought occurred to me. I might be quirkless again, but as long as I made use of my experience to encourage others, well, there's something kind of awesome about that. And that is noble in its own right. But the thing is, that dot 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 and some of the other shots throughout the final chapter add some darkness to this. We don't see Deku, after he loses power, fully embrace being a teacher, finding the passion and love in it. We can still see him yearning to be the hero that he was, being able to go out and fight crime himself. So, from a writing standpoint, what I would have done is I would have made Deku the central figure, given him a bigger statue, a central spot, and made it clear that he was the inspiration for all this, but also have him truly be okay with moving on to being a teacher and to embracing this new heroic profession that he is in and not have the old life weighing him down. You can miss something, but I wouldn't have those expressions of kind of longing as you look into this chapter a little bit deeper. I would have had him fully embrace it. That way, he chose to go into this profession and he is fully happy with where his life ended up. And I think that would have made losing his powers a lot more interesting. And honestly, I don't even know if I would have given him the super suit at the end. Because if he is fully okay with where things are and he is happy with where he's at in life, that would, the super suit's just, cake on top of it. And I would have made sure to emphasize that, this is the path that he was ultimately supposed to end up on. That he can be a great hero still without a quirk, changing the future of what heroes is going to look like. And I think that would resonate with people who feel powerless in the world, and not an ending where, he is given an artificial power to rejoin his friends. The next topic is going to be the love interest Uraka. Look. I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't think Uraka was the best love interest option. I'm all for the mechanic girl. Let me tell you, if I had to write it, that's who you would have ended up with. But this isn't about which waifu I would have chosen, because obviously one's better than the other. Instead, let's focus on what went wrong with it. It is hands down, without a doubt, not a Baku Deku story. Sorry, guys. Hate to say that. That was never going to happen. That was never in the cards for you. We're going to move on from that. And we're going to focus on the actual written love interest, which was Uraka. And the thing about Uraka as a love interest, and why it is such a problematic ending from a romance standpoint, is it went nowhere. We get no closure on it. He does not end up with her. He does not break up with her. It is a cowardly way to end the series in terms of addressing the love interest. You have over 400 chapters and you could not find time to give us closure on their happily ever after or not so much. And what I would have fixed is honestly given the answer. Because whether Deku ended up with Uraka, whether they dated for a little bit, and it turns out if you want to have a more grounded, ending where, they got together, things didn't work out, and they are still friendly, they are cordial, they found out that they are better as friends than lovers, that is a perfectly valid ending as well. Or have them not gotten together at all. Have them realize that they were never meant to be together. Any of those options is fine, but leaving it up in the air was not a good option for ending the story. So I would have actually closed that loop and addressed the question of what's up with that. And the last one is friendship. And there are some supposed interviews where the creator is talking about how he wanted the ending to go out in more of a realistic fashion rather than a big bang. And that's kind of why we got the ending we want. Here's the thing. Some people are going to argue that when you become an adult, friendships tend to fade and you don't see your friends as much as you want. That is absolutely true. But the way that they handled friendships in the end is abysmal. Because the reality is, Deku put the effort in and brought this class together in a way no one else could have. He is the reason the world is in the state that it is currently in, and some people would argue a better state. He is the reason these heroes became who they are. It is his efforts. They, without a doubt, through this story, arguably formed a very close bond, whether it's trauma bonding or just general friendship. They had some friendships going on, very deep bonds. That was a very central part to this story. And to have them not apparently have time, because the exact quote is, ever since we started working, our time off never seems to line up. It's hard to plan get-togethers. This is an absolute kick in the face, because the way that this is portrayed and the way that it is shown means that they do not make time for Deku. Because he is a 9 to 5 teacher. His schedule, for the most part, is set. They're all in the general area of each other. And so you're telling me over this many, many years that they could not each find their own time to hang out and check up on Deku is absolutely insulting. And we cannot infer that they do this because we don't get any hint that they do. The only indication that they really get about their friendship status is the line about them never having time to make plans, which means they don't hang out. They aren't really friends. They're at this point acquaintances. And I would have absolutely addressed this because as an adult with adult friends, if you care about that friendship enough, you will make time. It doesn't have to be every weekend. It doesn't even have to be every month. You can make plans once a quarter to go to a coffee shop for a 10-15 minute sit down. Hey, how are you doing, Deku? I'm doing good, Bakugo. Check up, make sure that they're okay. And as a writer, I would have absolutely retconned the absolute piss out of this. I would have kept the line about them having issues making schedules align to maybe bring everyone together, but then I would immediately have followed it up with showcasing several shots of him meeting with some of the different classmates, them talking, doing different activities together to show that everyone is still making an effort, even if it is one to one or one to small groups. Anything would have been better than what was currently given because it does not portray an active, accurate view of adulthood that we were supposed to get in this. Because real adult friends, even if it's inconvenient as hell, do make time for each other. And so it is these things that kind of culminate into why people either love this ending or hate it because they feel that the promise was kept of him being the greatest hero of all time or not. And then the love interest, friendship, and other aspects of it all compound on top of that to give those strong reactions. So this is how I would have fixed it is by one, addressing the love interest, two, addressing the friendships and actually have them do something to showcase that their friendships are real. And the thing is with the friendships, not everyone has to stay friends. I could even include a shot or two or of some people not even getting along anymore, and that would have been perfectly fine. I would have closed the loop on Deku being somewhat incontent and kind of dealing with the fact that he's a teacher now rather than having powers, because that's the vibe that it gives off the way that it's currently written, and had him fully embrace the profession and not only have been one of the greatest superpowered heroes of his generation, but now he's stepping up and now he's taking a different, more mundane route to still be a hero, impacting the world on a level that only Deku could. So, would you have preferred this ending over what you got? And what did you think of the current ending? And since I'm going to be doing more series about how I would change things or what if scenarios throughout different popular manga, I am not above critique. If I can critique other people's work, so can I get critiqued. So head down to the description, check out my series Night of Slaughter, Devil's Deal, and Deepstalker Crow. They're all created from stories of when I ran homebrew D&D campaigns. They all exist in the same world, so you may find a few little cameos here and there. And give me your honest thoughts to help me improve as a writer. So I appreciate your time and let me know what you guys think in the comments.